The locals developed an unspoken rule: never walk beyond the old stone bridge after sunset. Not because anyone forced them to, because nobody wanted to discover whether the stories were true. Years passed. Generations changed. The world outside became louder. Cities grew taller. Technology became smarter. Satellites mapped almost every corner of the planet. Yet somehow, this estate continued to protect its privacy. It never appeared in travel magazines, never became a tourist attraction, never chased attention. It simply existed, quietly, patiently, almost as though it understood something the modern world had forgotten. Because real power rarely announces itself. It simply waits. Today, that silence ends. For the first time, we are following the forgotten road beyond the forest, not to invade its privacy, but to understand why a place like this could survive untouched while everything around it changed. As the trees begin to separate, a massive wrought iron gate slowly emerges through the morning mist. Its black iron bars rise higher than most houses. Ancient stone pillars stand on both sides, weathered by time, yet stronger than ever. Beyond those gates, a long cobblestone driveway disappears into the distance. For several moments, nothing can be seen, only mist, only silence, only the strange feeling that something extraordinary is waiting just beyond sight. Then, as the morning fog slowly begins to lift, a silhouette appears. Not a castle, not an ordinary mansion, something far greater. Dark gray stone walls, towering chimneys, handcrafted architecture, massive oak doors, and a presence so commanding that it doesn't ask for attention. It commands it. This is the Blackstone Estate, a place where wealth was never the greatest achievement. Legacy was. And what waits beyond these gates is a story that has survived longer than the people who built it. Welcome to Elite Ledger. One traveler claimed the mansion had hundreds of windows. Another insisted there were barely any at all. Some described towering stone towers reaching into the sky. Others swore they saw nothing except endless trees. No two stories were ever the same. Yet every witness agreed on one thing. Something existed beyond that forest. Something enormous. Something impossible to forget. Every morning, fresh tire tracks appeared on the old cobblestone road. Yet nobody ever saw the vehicle that left them. The gardens surrounding the estate always looked perfectly maintained. Flowers bloomed with impossible precision. Ancient hedges remained flawlessly trimmed. Stone pathways were never covered by leaves. Despite the forest surrounding them from every direction, the fountains never stopped flowing, even during the coldest winters, even during violent storms. Someone, somewhere, was taking care of this place. But no workers ever arrived. No trucks delivered supplies, no visitors crossed its gates, and no lights were ever seen leaving the property, only arriving. Every evening, just as darkness settled across the valley, a warm amber glow appeared inside the tallest tower. Exactly one window, exactly the same time, every single night. Some believed it was nothing more than an automatic light. Others refused to believe technology could explain something that had remained unchanged for decades. Eventually, people stopped asking questions. Curiosity slowly turned into respect. Respect slowly turned into distance. Every great nation, every great empire, and every great family leaves something behind. Sometimes it's a crown, sometimes a fortune, but every once in a lifetime, they leave behind a place so mysterious that people begin to question whether it was ever meant to be found. Far beyond the noise of crowded cities, beyond highways, beyond the last forgotten village, there exists a road that almost nobody chooses to follow. It isn't marked on tourist maps. No signs point toward it. No guidebooks mention its destination. The road simply disappears into an ancient forest, as if nature itself has spent centuries trying to hide whatever lies ahead. The towering oak trees grow so close together that sunlight struggles to reach the ground. The air feels colder. The silence becomes heavier. Even the wind seems to whisper, rather than blow. Local villagers have told stories about this road for generations. Children grew up hearing them. Parents warned their families never to wander too far beyond the forest, not because of wild animals, not because of dangerous terrain, but because of something far more unsettling. A mansion, hidden where almost nobody could find it. Some believed it belonged to one of Europe's oldest families. Others insisted it had been abandoned decades ago, and a few claimed no one had truly owned it at all. As the years passed, rumors became legends, legends became myths, and myths slowly transformed into silence, because every person who tried to explain the estate returned with a different story.
The gates open, without a sound, no rust, no violent creak, only the slow movement of handcrafted iron that has stood here longer than most people can imagine. Beyond them, the world changes. The noise of civilization disappears completely. Every step forward feels like traveling backward through time. The cobblestone road stretches endlessly ahead, lined with towering oak trees whose branches almost touch above your head, forming a natural cathedral of leaves. Sunlight slips through tiny openings, painting moving patterns across the ancient stone road. The deeper you travel, the quieter everything becomes. No traffic, no distant cities. Not even birds seem eager to disturb the silence. It is almost as though this estate exists inside its own world, a world untouched by modern time. As the road gently curves, the full estate finally reveals itself. For a brief moment, words become useless. The mansion does not rise from the landscape, it belongs to it. Every dark gray stone appears as though it was carved directly from the surrounding mountains. Every tower stands with quiet confidence. Every window has perfect symmetry. Nothing feels excessive. Nothing feels designed simply to impress. Everything has purpose. That is the language of old money, because true legacy never needs to prove itself. A massive stone fountain welcomes every visitor. Crystal clear water flows endlessly into a circular basin that has likely remained unchanged for generations. Around it, perfectly maintained gardens bloom with remarkable precision, not colorful enough to feel extravagant, not empty enough to feel cold, balanced, disciplined, intentional. Even the trees seem carefully chosen, not for beauty alone, but for what they will become 50 years from now. Because whoever designed this estate was not thinking about today, they were building for people they would never meet. A pair of magnificent black horses stand peacefully near the historic stone stables. Their posture reflects the same quiet confidence carried by the mansion itself. Nearby, vintage carriages rest beneath handcrafted timber shelters, not because they are needed anymore, but because history is never discarded here. It is preserved. The closer you walk toward the entrance, the larger the mansion becomes. Massive oak doors reinforced with black forged iron dominate the front facade. The craftsmanship is astonishing. Every carving, every hinge, every iron detail, created by hands, long forgotten. Yet their work continues to speak. Above the entrance, the Blackstone family crest watches silently over the courtyard, not as decoration, as identity. It reminds every visitor that this house was never built for a single lifetime, it was built for generations. As the enormous doors slowly open, warm amber light spills across the ancient stone floor. The air changes. Outside, the estate felt powerful. Inside, it feels alive. The entrance hall rises 2 full stories above your head. Dark walnut beams cross the ceiling. Handcrafted chandeliers glow with a soft golden light. Ancient limestone walls carry subtle marks left by centuries. Not damage, character. An enormous staircase curves gracefully toward the upper floors. Every step has been polished by time rather than machines. At the far end of the hall, a roaring fireplace burns beneath a massive stone mantel. The flames dance quietly, reflecting across polished black marble floors. The warmth fills the room, but never overpowers its silence. Along both sides of the hall, towering oil portraits observe every movement, generation after generation, faces that once shaped the future of this estate. None of them smile, none of them seek attention. They simply watch, as if asking a single question. What kind of legacy will you leave behind? The journey continues deeper. A pair of towering oak doors reveal the Great Hall, long before electricity, long before modern luxury. This room was already extraordinary. A table carved from a single ancient oak tree stretches through the center. Massive chandeliers hang above it. Historic banners decorate the stone walls. Every chair, every beam, every stone feels impossible to replace, not because of its price, but because of its story. Nearby, a private library waits behind another carved wooden door. Thousands of leather-bound books cover floor-to-ceiling shelves. Old maps, rare manuscripts, handwritten journals, knowledge collected over generations. The scent of aged paper and polished walnut fills the air. Nothing here was bought to impress visitors. Everything here was collected, patiently, slowly, purposefully, and perhaps that is the greatest luxury of all, not owning more, but preserving what truly matters. Yet despite its breathtaking beauty,
a physical reminder that the greatest investments are rarely measured by money alone. Experts estimate that recreating an estate of this scale today, using handcrafted limestone, traditional European craftsmanship, private forests, horse stables, historic interiors, secret underground structures, and thousands of acres of protected land, could easily require an investment of more than $300 million. Yet even that number tells only a small part of the story, because if someone offered twice that amount tomorrow, the answer would probably remain the same: not for sale. Some things cannot be purchased, they can only be protected. As evening slowly settles across the valley, golden light disappears behind the ancient hills. The lanterns awaken one by one, warm reflections dance across the stone walls. The fountains continue their endless rhythm. Mist slowly rolls across the gardens. The towering oak trees stand silently, exactly as they have for generations. The massive gates close once again, not to keep people out, but to protect everything that exists within. From above, the estate looks almost unreal, a kingdom of stone surrounded by forests, hidden from the modern world, unaffected by trends, untouched by noise, unafraid of time. Because true greatness never competes for attention. It simply endures. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson Blackstone Estate leaves behind. Luxury fades, fashion changes, fortunes rise and disappear. But character, craftsmanship, and legacy can survive for centuries. Maybe that is why people were never meant to enter this mansion, not because it held dangerous secrets, but because its greatest secret was always hiding in plain sight. The greatest wealth was never inside the house. The house itself was the legacy. Thank you for joining us on Elite Ledger. If you enjoy cinematic journeys through extraordinary estates, timeless architecture, and unforgettable stories, subscribe and become part of our growing community. Because beyond every hidden gate, beyond every forgotten road, and beyond every silent mansion, there is always another story waiting to be discovered.
most people believe a mansion's greatest treasure is hidden inside a vault. Gold, jewelry, rare paintings, perhaps even billions of dollars. But after walking through every corridor, every hall, and every silent room inside Blackstone Estate, one truth slowly becomes impossible to ignore. None of those things were ever the real treasure. The deeper you travel, the more the mansion begins to reveal its true purpose. It was never designed to show wealth. It was designed to protect a legacy. A narrow stone corridor quietly disappears behind an ancient bookshelf. Without knowing where to look, you would walk past it 1,000 times. Hidden beneath the estate, a passage carved into solid limestone stretches through the foundation. The walls remain cold, the air grows quieter. Every step echoes through history. Warm lanterns cast long shadows across the stone floor, as though the estate itself remembers every person who once walked these halls. At the end of the passage, a gigantic forged steel door stands silently before you. Not modern, not electronic, built with craftsmanship instead of technology. Behind it rest one family's most valuable possessions, not stacks of cash, not mountains of gold, but handwritten journals, original blueprints, centuries-old letters, historic land records, family photographs, and promises passed from one generation to the next. objects whose value can never truly be measured. Because money creates ownership, but history creates identity. Nearby, an underground wine cellar stretches beneath massive stone arches. Thousands of carefully preserved bottles remain untouched. Some have rested here for decades, others for generations. Not because someone forgot them, because patience has always been the rarest luxury. Above ground, the mansion continues its quiet conversation with time. The library still protects knowledge. The Great Hall still welcomes family. The gardens continue to bloom exactly as they always have. The fountains continue their endless flow. The black horses still wait peacefully beside the historic stables. Nothing here demands attention. Everything simply belongs. And perhaps that is why this estate feels so different from modern luxury. Today, many homes are designed to be photographed, to collect attention, to impress strangers for a few brief moments. But Blackstone Estate was never built for strangers. It was built for children who had not yet been born, for generations who would inherit not only land, but responsibility, stone by stone, beam by beam, tree by tree. The estate became more than architecture. It became memory,